Welcome to the second episode of Bryant DIY Interviews, where we talk to saxophonist, vocalist, composer, arranger, and a bit of a songwriter, Lance Bryant, about his music, creative process, and other things. Hats. Today we're going to be listening to Junebug from Lance's first CD entitled Psalm. Lance, thanks once more for coming to share with us about your music. Pleasure. Hey, looks like you're sporting another beautiful hat there. You're all about the hats, aren't you? Yeah, I'm a hat guy from way back. This is my Santana. That's what I call it. It's actually from Carlos Santana's line of hats, and it's cool because it has this unique outer band, and on the inside, the sweatband is an embossed leather with these traditional Mexican symbols and, of course, Santana's logo. It's also a Panama straw hat, and people think Panama is a certain shape or that they're from Panama. Panama actually means that they are hand-woven in Ecuador in a certain tradition, and I guess the name came from when they were originally distributed from Panama way back in the... I didn't ask you all that. So I find Junebug a lot of fun to listen to. Was it as fun in the making? Yeah, very much so. Like I mentioned before, on this first project I wanted to introduce who I am musically, drawing from my background. And so that got extended to my whole family's background. And I got to thinking about where my folks are from. They're from down south, Mississippi. Wow, really? My parents are from Mississippi too. What part? They're from Columbus. Whoa, get out of here. So are mine. My grandfather was a Baptist preacher. Did your parents move to Chicago after they got married? Wow, what a coincidence. You were saying? So I started going through the memories of being down there and the music I heard, which is mostly gospel, spirituals, and some old R&B. To tell you the truth, I don't really remember hearing the blues down there when I was a kid, at least not that I was conscious of. Maybe because Grandpapa was a preacher. But later I found out that my folks were into the blues. They must have really been into the blues. Because Mom told me that they used to go, once they moved to Chicago, they used to go out a lot to hear Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf and John Lee Hooker, all from Mississippi, by the way. So thinking about this made me want to become familiar with the traditional blues. So I started doing a lot of listening to it and even reading up on it. And I got hooked. Found it very interesting. I had been playing off and on with Marvin Sewell, the guitarist, and I thought, who better to ask to help me with this? Because I knew that he was deep into this blues guitar tradition. So, of course, when he consented, I got really excited about the project even more. Okay, I can't wait to ask, who are the Junebugs? Our two little kids, Jordan and Kaylin. You'll hear them singing this little kid's song at the beginning of the piece. Just their voices and Marvin's guitar. Or, how old were they? Well, at the time, I think Marvin was... No, the kids, silly. Well, Jordan was 12 and Kaylin was 8. They had a ball. Kaylin couldn't stop giggling, hearing herself back on the recording. We were using this little MP3 recorder, which we took to the studio later. But Kaylin couldn't stop giggling, which made Jordan laugh. It was hilarious. How did you come up with that idea? The whole song, for that matter. It's a cute story. So my earliest memories of being down south were going to family reunions or being dropped off down there in the summer for summer break. My grandparents lived there and one of my uncles and some cousins. A particularly vivid memory was of hanging out at night playing with my cousins. And they would catch this huge bug. I guess it was a beetle. And they said it was a Junebug. Ew, I hate bugs. Is it true that all the bugs down south are supersized? I don't think so. Anyway, they would tie this June bug to a string and let it fly around while they held on to the string. And needless to say, that fascinated me as a kid. So I decided to write a song about this experience. I wanted it to be very visual, so I started getting this picture of a guitar player, a guitarist sitting out on a wood porch playing the blues, and there's some kids in the backyard playing. Then I had this idea that they could be singing this little kids song. So I took some of the ideas that I was working on Junebug and formed this other separate little ditty, a kids song, kids play song. Junebug, Junebug in the sky, like my soul, you're flying high. I don't know why kids would be singing about their soul, but anyway, it's mostly a true story. The part about the gun and the snake, it didn't really quite happen like that, but on subsequent visits down there was a gun and there was a snake, so I figured I'd throw them in the story and make it interesting. Come on, Lance. To just say there was a gun and a snake, you just gonna leave us hanging, bro? Papa never put a 12-gauge shotgun in your hand and told you to shoot that snake? Tell us more. Well, like I said, when I was writing the song, I felt like it needed some more. And I started thinking about other memories from down there. One time I remember being down there and seeing a rifle standing against a wall in Pop's house. I also remember seeing a snake out in the yard. So at some point I said, okay, I'll put these together. And came up with a little story of Papa putting a shotgun in my hand, telling me to shoot that 12-foot snake. And of course my hand began to shake because I needed to rhyme with snake. Suddenly I had a little narrative of a young man becoming of age and being afraid to shoot a snake. Maybe he's afraid to face his fears. I used to be into mythology and symbolism, so I thought, wow, this is cool. It might be turning into a more of a bigger universal story, like an allegory or something. Oh, I can see that. Interesting. So I thought, okay, I need to connect the part about the gun and the snake to the part about the bug and the string. So I started getting this idea about the string becoming a snake or serpent, and the serpent has a hold on the bug, and the bug becomes me. Okay, getting a little weird, but I went with it. And it's interesting, if you think about it. When you're a kid, life is simple. You got a string and you got a bug, life is good. But when you become an adult, life gets a little more complex. You might feel like you're a little bug in a big world with big complicated problems. You might be trying to make all the right decisions and do all the right things so you can fly, but you feel like you're being held back. Maybe it's your doubts and your fears, or maybe it's mean forces in the world trying to keep you in your place, so to speak. So now we got a blues. And like the blues, the song offers no solution or triumphal moment. The blues only reports on the strains of life and the existential situation at hand, you dig? So the snake was going to eat the bug. What? Eat the... No, it's a metaphor. The snake is the string. So the snake turns into a string to hold the bug and then back to a snake to eat the bug? I don't know, Lance. I really liked the song before, but now... I was just joking, man. Kids were having a great time with the June bug. Nice! You really had me for a minute there. Yeah. Well, I have a couple more questions for you. But first, we're going to listen to a little June bug. That's with Lance Bryant on saxophone and vocal, Rick Germanson on piano, Daryl Hall on bass, Willard Dyson on drums, a sizzling guitar solo from Marvin Sewell, and of course, the June Bugs, Jordan and Kaylin Bryant.
bug, June bug in the sky. Let my soul get flying high. On the string and earthly bound. Let my feet here on the ground. Buzz around, buzz around, buzz around, buzz around, buzz around.
I remember before I became a man, my papa took me way down to Delta land. Mississippi was my daddy's home, way down south where the almighty blues is from. And I remember I was a little boy. My peeps down south showed me how to make a natural toy. Catch a June bug buzzing around by the back porch light. Hitch 'em up to the 7-foot string in the darkness of the night. A buzz around in June bug. A buzz around in June bug.
Awesome. So Lance, when you talked about writing song, you mentioned the disparate influences that helped you through that song. What were you listening to and thinking about when you wrote Junebug? Sun House. Like I said, when I was preparing for this, I was listening to a lot of blues, a lot of great traditional artists, and the one that stood out to me was Sun House, guitarist and singer. He was most active from 1920s through the 1940s, I guess. And there was something about his voice and his delivery and the way he attacked the guitar is somehow reminiscent of somebody I heard singing in church when I grew up. I don't know who, but it's just a very familiar thing for me. And by the way, although I didn't grow up listening to country blues, there's no distinction in my mind between the way the old country blues singers sang and the old gospel style I heard growing up. So that old country blues feeling was what I was going for this song, and of course mixed with the funk rhythms that I heard coming up in the music of my own generation. You've talked about the influence of your family background, and now you have your own family with your kids' involvement in the project. So what about Mrs. Bryant? It's Bridget. Sorry, just don't call her that, what you just said. That's not her name. Let me hook a brother up. If you ever meet her, her name is Bridget. Yeah, Bridget, Bridget. That's it. Isn't that beautiful? Yeah, the project would never have materialized if not for this awesome woman. She is the organizer and the one that makes things happen. She helped pull all the logistics together with the people at the studio. She helped with the producing, and she helped me with the mixing. She figured out the whole publishing thing, and she dealt with the guy that did the mastering and the artwork for the cover. I tell you, once I wrote the music and performed it, I felt like I was her assistant. And then the kids got involved. Once the CD was done, Jordan was helping out with the packaging and the mailing, filling out some of the forms and keeping things organized. And once we started to sell the CDs at gigs, Kaylin was the finalizer. She was cute as a button with her little ponytails. She would take CDs in her hand and go out to the audience and say, would you like to buy my daddy's CD? People couldn't resist. You know, it was really something to think back on those days. It was a true family affair. I mean, it always is to some extent, but that was a special time. I tell you, I couldn't be more blessed. Family may be challenging at sometimes, or it's definitely challenging sometimes, but it's worth every minute. There's nothing like having a crew that you know has your back no matter what. Beautiful. Amen to that, brother. Well, that about wraps it up for today. Thank you, Lance, for sharing insight on Junebug, and we'll be looking forward to the next chat. Thank you, Lance, for having me. And we'll see you again for our next episode when we'll listen to something a little more recent. In fact, it hasn't even been recorded yet, but we'll have it here just for you exclusively on Lance Bryant DIY Interviews. Until then, bright moments.